Hi and welcome to SCW, the wrestling channel here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Leave any comments in the comment section. Please like and share the video as well. Going to be taking your questions today from Twitter.com and Instagram for Ask SCW episode 11. Of course, on Twitter it is SCW Wrestling Channel at SCW_Steve, and for Instagram it is SCW the Wrestling Channel, all together for the username. So without further ado, let's get to the questions this week. We've got plenty in store, lots of different questions involving WWE, AEW and as well NXT. So without further ado, we'll get straight into it. And we're going to start off with one of SCW's very own George Jones. Who would you have the Fiend face at every pay-per-view up to and including WrestleMania? Well, it's quite a loaded question to kick us off this week, and The Fiend, of course, is in high demand now. And the one thing that's very special about this question is that so far The Fiend is the most over thing in WWE right now, but he's only been on one pay-per-view since introducing the Fiend gimmick after WrestleMania. We've had SummerSlam against Finn Balor. It's the only time the Fiend has actually wrestled, period, let alone actually been involved on a pay-per-view match. But of course, he's going to be involved at Hell in a Cell, against Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship. I've said on previous occasions he needs to win. It's something that would be going forward. Bray Wyatt, to keep this Fiend character working, needs to become the champion, and therefore, to become Universal Champion, you're going to have to compete a bit more. So I see why this question has been asked, and even though it's a loaded question, I think that there are some suitable candidates that I would throw in. The only part here that makes this perhaps a bit of a difficult thing to answer is that the draft is going to be next week. So we don't know actually what show The Fiend is going to be on, whether it's Raw or SmackDown. Rumours are currently suggesting that Fox want him on SmackDown, but he will probably stay on Raw with Paul Heyman. Heyman loves the idea of booking The Fiend. So it looks likely that right now he will stay on Raw. But even if he was to become Universal Champion, it still wouldn't mean he couldn't go to SmackDown Live. In previous drafts over the years, champions have changed brands. The WWE Championship could become on Raw, and a Universal Championship could be on SmackDown. We've already seen the whole Raw commentary team go to SmackDown. So, I mean, if SmackDown's now going to be the A show, the Universal Championship has been the A Championship in the last couple of years since its introduction into WWE, so that still could happen as well. What I will say, though, is to answer your question, I feel that there are, depending on how the draft goes, there are a number of people that he could face or should face. It just depends which side he ends up on. For me, the top person would be Braun Strowman if he was to defeat Seth Rollins, of course, and become Universal Champion. Braun Strowman is the next guy because he's probably the next in line on that top tier area in WWE. If we're looking at Crown Jewel, The Undertaker would be a good shout, I think, because he tends to come back for that event. Most superstars that have been taking the raft of the Fiend have not come back every week afterwards. The Undertaker for me would be a good shout, even though I believe Crown Jewel is the next pay-per-view after Hell in a Cell, so I think that would be good because The Undertaker could be written off television until his next appearance, maybe at the Rumble or for WrestleMania season. Other people that you could say that a program would be good would be Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar. I think that those are probably the main money matches. You probably Randy Orton would be another one I think people would be interested in. There is some history there with Randy Orton, as there has been with Daniel Bryan as well, if you look at the previous with the Wyatt family, for example. And if we're going to go out there as well for perhaps someone that's a part-timer, John Cena would be a realistic possibility as well, mainly because Cena wants that 17th championship to break Ric Flair's record, and as well as that, I mean, of course, The Fiend, he never forgets. There is some history there with those sort of guys, so those could be some candidates. Going for the WrestleMania match, I think that The Fiend against Brock Lesnar has money written on it because I think that both are booked very strongly, so that they could be potential candidates against each other, where it would almost feel quite fitting. As well as that, at the same time, you could say the likes of John Cena, as I say, coming off as a special appearance. The Undertaker maybe, but I would say that that would have to be Crown Jewel. I have said on previous episodes of this, I would love to see at WrestleMania The Fiend versus Aleister Black, but at the moment, Aleister Black is not being booked as strong. Even though he's winning every time he competes, he's not booked as often, and there isn't as much hype around Aleister Black at this particular moment. The Fiend has perhaps overshot maybe the way I would have booked him even leading into WrestleMania, he now is going to looking like to become a champion almost in WWE, or certainly that main event caliber level. And it almost feels at this point that the Fiend should be maybe one of the top 1 or 2 matches of WrestleMania. I don't think Aleister Black will be there when it comes to that stage. Next question comes from Tyler Slade, and he's got a few questions here, opinion questions as well. How long will AEW take to build an audience, or will they do big numbers off the bat? Will AEW affect NXT numbers, and if so, how will Triple H respond? And are there WWE guys of value that are considering a jump to AEW when able? Very good, all those lineup of questions there for you. I'll try and take them one at a time. So I think looking off the bat, I do think that AEW will build an audience over time, but I do think that this week, looking at it, this Wednesday Night War, I think it is a war this week. I think NXT will win the battle this week. I mean, both of their weeks they've been on USA, they have got over 1 million viewers. I think that this week is going to be a lot of hype around it for a lot of wrestling fans. Perhaps some people that weren't tuning in will tune in to see what AEW is all about. I think there'll be about 1.5 to maybe 1.7 million viewers on Wednesday, and I think it's going to be spread out over the 2 shows of who is going to get what. If AEW takes an advantage and really catapults themselves forward, what would Triple H do? Well, the draft is happening as well, and there's always a good opportunity then to bring people in for NXT as well. They're still developmental, but they're on TV now, and they're going to be taken more seriously. If someone isn't doing well, or if NXT isn't pulling those numbers in, they can pull a name for 1 week, 2 weeks. This week Roman Reigns is, because a lot of guys have been on NXT who are on the main roster now, so you can have those cameos come in. Roman Reigns could cut a promo, Seth Rollins could come in for a match. You've got these reasons to bring people in. WWE has so many different brands within their own company that they can make things very different, but they can also make it the same very quickly. And if they need to, they can almost do a wild card of their own for NXT, where someone could come in every single week to boost a rating. They might want to make people debut on NXT TV to try and pop a rating as well. You might find maybe the likes of, the rumours are that John Morrison has been rehired. Maybe he might come in and be a rating at some stage. You might find that there's many different possibilities. NXT UK, we've seen Imperium already come in. We've seen Rhea Ripley. Could we see Tony Storm as someone that could be brought in to boost those ratings? NXT has got a lot going for it if they need to. I think the real question is, what would AEW do if their ratings don't go off the bat straight away? Do they hit the free market? Do they have to improve their writing? What do they have to do? Do they have to try and venture their marketing skills out further and wider? Time will tell on it, but one thing's for sure, when it comes to these Wednesday evenings, it's going to be very exciting. And this particular week, I think, really, the whole wrestling world, I think, has got an intrigue and excitement about it. It's almost as if it's a whole new era of wrestling, and it begins this week. I mean, we could be blown away here. There could be Raw, SmackDown style numbers, which, of course, doesn't seem so big when you look at the old school ratings. Like in the Attitude Era, there were like 7, 8 million kind of ratings, but these days it's like 2.3. I mean, if we got that sort of rating on Wednesday between those 2 shows, I think it would be massively successful. Still going here with Tyler Slade. He's got another question for us. What WWE guys do you think AEW has eyes or desire for? People that's going to make the money. I think that's pretty much it. They probably might see certain superstars as undervalued in WWE, but may think that they can offer them something. But Sean Spears is a prime example of that. He's someone that couldn't even find himself on television, but somehow still managed to become in AEW, and arguably, it was a big match all out for him. He was, 3rd or 4th match from the end, so he was in a big position in that card. John Moxley, of course, was a WWE Champion, and that would appeal. If someone of a big, high value does leave WWE, why wouldn't you want to take them? If it was like the Revival, arguably one of the best tag teams in the world, the New Day is something that would, intrigue the Young Bucks. I think the tag teams are definitely something that AEW would have eyes and desire for, because they want talent and they want a strong tag team division. Single stars, people that are probably seen as under the radar, that they think they could get more out of, maybe Arguably, Luke Harper could be one of them, and if not from that, then you probably look at those people that are main event talents who, if they ever decide to leave WWE, maybe for a lighter schedule, maybe for money reasons, who knows what happens down the line. It seems unlikely that money would be the drive right now because WWE has plenty of it, but you never know. Something could drive someone to go somewhere at any stage, and AEW, if they think it's going to benefit them, they'll snap them up. Our next question comes from Samuel Decius. How would you feel if Brock was to defeat Kofi? Will it be a good move to give Lesnar the title? For me, it would be a good move for Brock Lesnar at this stage to get the WWE Championship from Kofi Kingston. There's a few different ways that we could look at this, but with the WWE Championship, if that is going to stay on the SmackDown side, Brock Lesnar represents what Fox wants, to give that more sport feel, that MMA fighter. We mean fighter rather than sports entertainer. I think that that's what they're looking for. We haven't got Ronda Rousey right now at the disposal for WWE to throw her onto SmackDown Live. So Brock Lesnar is probably the next best thing. He has more star power than Kofi Kingston does, and that's sorry to say, but Kofi Kingston's had 6 months as WWE Champion. He's had a good reign, in my opinion. I've enjoyed his reign as WWE Champion, but we're starting to run out of people now he can face. I know we've got a draft coming, but arguably you could turn around and say that the time is right to make that switch, and it's the first episode on Fox as well. So for me, I do think that this would be a good move, the right move. The one thing I would say is that if Kofi was to actually win this match, Kofi, for me, becomes in the top 6 superstars of the entire company. He becomes bigger than AJ Styles. He's on the level with Brock, with Roman, with the Fiend right now, Seth, Braun, and Kofi's in there. Randy Orton as well in that pack as well. They're that top elite talent. But I would say that Kofi is well in the thick of the mix of that. But I think the time's right. I think it should be changed. And I think regardless whether then the WWE Championship stays on Raw or stays on SmackDown or goes to Raw, I think Brock Lesnar is a good fit for it. But I think it's a better fit if it's for Fox. And I think that Fox wants Brock. I think that they would like him as their champion. I think it's going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised for that title change to happen this Friday night on SmackDown. Next question comes from Daniel Decius. Who got the best spear out of these 4 wrestlers? The 4 there we've got pictured are Rhino, Goldberg, Edge, and Roman Reigns. All creditable spears in their own way. Of course, 3 of them have used them as their finisher in the past, of course. When we say with spear, it's actually a gore for Rhino. I used to love when you hear Joey Styles or Paul Heyman screaming, gore, gore. Edge, of course, always an opportunist, was perfect for him and his character when he had that as a heel. Roman Reigns, it does work for him, but for us, it's kind of usually an anticlimactic kind of feel that normally a lot of matches tend to, they're going to finish at that point. It depends what side you are with Roman Reigns, of course. I mean, I am a fan of Roman, but, sometimes it's nice to see it mixed up, and I would like to see a different finisher for Roman, if I was brutally honest. For me, looking at these 4 guys and the best spear, it's either Rhino or it's Goldberg. For me, though, I'm going to go for Bill Goldberg, just purely because maybe it's the jobbers that receive those spears, but they usually look like they were being decapitated a lot of the time when Goldberg was to hit them. Even you've got to look at this as far as SummerSlam this year. Dolph Ziggler sold it like a trooper, and literally, I think Goldberg probably has the best spear out there right now, or in history. Next question comes from Dylan Ketchum, who asks, were you excited that John Morrison is coming back to WWE? Well, it's rumoured that is going to be the case. I still haven't seen that it's a definite at this stage of the game, so I have to wait and see if he is or when he is coming back. But yeah, I am looking forward to it because I think that he's always been very good in the ring. I think he's a very athletic talent. I think he's better as a heel than he is as a face. So it'd be interesting to see what role he would be given in WWE. Also would be interesting to see where he's going to be positioned. But there are a lot of great matches out there for wherever you put John Morrison back into WWE. If he's on Raw, you've got the likes of Ricochet. I know if anyone's a Lucha Underground fan, do check out the Prince Puma Johnny Mundo series on Lucha Underground. Incredible. I think they've had matches in the first season and possibly even the third season, but they had a match that was called All Night Long, which was the whole episode, and it's like an Iron Man match. Absolutely incredible, worth checking out. You look on the SmackDown side, you've got the likes of Ali on there as well, which would be quite interesting to see. But you've also got those contrasts of styles as well. I mean, would he be tag teaming with The Miz again? Could they rival? You know, there's lots of possibilities for John Morrison on the main roster. NXT is where I'd like to see him, though. That's where I'd be most excited. Johnny Wrestling against John Morrison, I think that could kind of work. I think we've got the likes as well, the Velveteen Dream, you know, Matt Riddle, Undisputed Era. There's a lot of talent there that I'd love to see John Morrison against. And regardless of where he ends up, it's a fresh pool of talent from when he left in 2011, and I think that's what makes it most exciting, because for him now it's going to be completely fresh. And although I think that on the main roster his glass ceiling is the mid card in NXT, I think he'd go all the way to the top, and I think he'd be great at working with that younger talent. Next question, as we spoke about John Morrison, it's appropriately coming from Tire World Order. What is your most anticipated match on the Impact Wrestling Bound for Glory pay-per-view? Great question, that, because talking Impact Wrestling, I'm a fan of Impact Wrestling. We don't get to talk about it so often on these Q&As, but I'll throw the match card on the screen for you now. We've got the Impact World Championship on the line with Brian Cage against Sami Callihan. We've got the Impact Knockouts Championship, Taya Valkyrie against Tenille Dashwood. We've got Moose against Ken Shamrock. That's right, Shamrock is going to be back in an Impact ring. We've got Michael Elgin against Marufuji. And we've also got the Rascal is going to take on Dr. Wagner and two partners of his choosing. We've also going to have an X Division ladder match as well, which I know that Jake Christ and Tessa Blanchard are currently involved in. I think that the X Division title, eventually when all those competitors are announced for it, will be pretty exciting. I'm interested in the tag team division as well. I'm a big fan of the North. I really think that they've got a lot of potential, and it feels like at the moment that we could be working against them versus Rich Swann and the Mac, and possibly Rob Van Dam and Rhino could be a three-way there, but I'm speculating at that point. Of the matches that we know, I'm intrigued to see what Ken Shamrock brings to the ring. Has he still got it? It'll be interesting to see if he does. Moose and him put on a great segment this past week on Impact Wrestling, so I do think that looking at that, it's definitely something that's got my vested interest when it comes to that. Taya and Tenille Dashwood, I think, should be a really good match, so I'm looking forward to that. But the match I'm most looking forward to has got to be the main event, Brian Cage against Sami Callihan. I do think that it's going to be a very split audience when it comes to this particular match. I think that even though Sami is such a great heel, I think people will want to see him become the Impact Wrestling champion, especially as Brian Cage has been not in the ring so much. So I think a lot of people there may be a split crowd when it comes to this one. And personally for me, at the moment, I've got split opinions on who I think will win it. And I think that's what makes it quite exciting as well, because sometimes you think with these matches, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing them, but I've got a good idea who's going to win. This one, I'm really on the fence right now. It could literally go any way. Next question comes from Slam Hub Wrestling. Opinion on NXT UK. Is it to be blamed for some of the promotions in the UK shutting down? Arguably, yes. I mean, after all, everything's a business. And in WWE, they saw the UK market really rising up. A lot of great talent coming from there. Pete Dunne, Trent Seven, Tyler Bates, Walter. They've got all these people under that banner. I mean, of course, although Walter is not, British, neither is Tony Storm or Rhea Ripley, but put them under that banner. And it is probably most exciting to go and watch NXT UK as that tours around the country for TV tapings. Then perhaps maybe it is to go and see a local show where you might get one of those names. All the big talents, perhaps of the United Kingdom, have been put there. And yeah, I think that you could argue and say, yeah, they are to blame, but after all, this is business. WWE saw an opportunity. They took it. They made NXT UK. And for those who watch it, I think we enjoy it. I certainly do. And the only thing that I think's a real negative about it is, where do these new stars come from? Do they get found now in a UK performance centre? Or can we still find people on a local scene? We'll have to wait and see. I mean, there are still plenty of independent scenes on the local market in the United Kingdom. The question will be will they survive in time to come? I hope they do, because of course you never know where the next big star can come from. And if you look from a WWE perspective, we still never had an English WWE champion, and I hope for that one day. I think it'd be really cool to see. Next question and last question comes from Pro Wrestling Talk. Have you ever been to a WWE house show? I have, but it's been a long, long time. I went when I was a child, so in the 90s was the last time I've been to a show actually live, and I believe it was in the mid-90s, let's just put it that way. But you know, a totally different crop of talent that was there. Maybe some of the biggest names ever in pro wrestling I would have seen live, and it was really fun, really sort of cool experience. These days, I'm not in a location close enough where I can just go and watch a WWE show. I mean, I'm not in the United States for starters, so I have to wait for overseas tours, and I'm not really somewhere that's actually that close if they were to do that either. For me, really, when it comes to house shows as well, if I was to go to them now, from what I've been told by friends who go to them, who have gone to them, they're good, but you're better to go to the live stuff. A lot more is saved for television. Of course, people are normally filling each other out for later dates when it's house shows. When it's the live television, that's when they go all out. And for me, if I next go to a show, I would like to go to a big show where they're going to go all out. And I think that that would be more exciting at this stage for me than it would be to go to a house show. But I'd like to know people's experiences of going to house shows, though. It's an interesting topic, and would like to hear people's thoughts of going to WWE house shows. What's the last one you guys have been to? Was the card decent? Was the main event good? Was it building towards a pay-per-view at the time, if you can remember it? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section of this video. But that's all from me anyway here, and that's your questions from Twitter and Instagram. Of course, you can get involved right now, even in the comment section of this video with a hashtag AskSCW. I know then to include that in the next episode of when I do this here on YouTube. Keep an eye on this week as well. I'm hoping to do a podcast later this week, which I'll upload onto the channel. Definitely reflecting on this week's WWE, NXT, and AEW, and how the brand of wrestling is getting to a new exciting stage once again. A new era seems to have begun, as well as that Hell in a Cell. Those predictions will be coming up for you later this week as well, aiming for those to be on around Wednesday or Thursday, so do keep an eye out on the channel for that. But that's all from me anyway. Like I say, you can follow me on Twitter, SCW Wrestling Channel, or at SCW_Steve, or on Instagram, and that's SCW The Wrestling Channel, all of that put together without spaces. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time here on YouTube.com. Take care.